All right. Good morning, Mary Lee. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Hannah. Good morning, Valentina. I was just talking with
No
Hannah.
problem. No problem. We were just all on a three-way call. It is totally okay. And it is still well, it's a Tuesday, but I feel like it's kind of a Monday because I didn't actually do meetings yesterday. So totally understandable. All right. So today we are talking about wellness. So first, we let's just establish what wellness is, I guess, for students, what your department does and what your role is in the department.
Sure. So my name is Mary Lee Smith. I work for the campus recreation and wellness department, and really a lot of my focus is on well-being, wellness, health promotion. And so wellness is this really broad term, right? Like it encompasses so many different things. And so we've really tried to narrow that scope down to a well-being definition here in campus rec and wellness to really focus on the things that are most prevalent to our students, those 8 dimensions of wellness, and looking at well-being as a more holistic approach to a student's health.
Awesome. I feel like that's a really important distinction that wellness is a broad term that is used a lot, especially in higher education, but not always clearly defined.
Yes.
Um, so I want to talk to you about something you touched on, which I think you at least touched on, which is Live Well UNG. Can you talk about what that is? And when students see that on flyers or maybe on event posters, what does that mean? What should they know about it?
Yeah, so Live Well UNG, we're really excited. It is a new concept for the University of North Georgia, really taking this well-being kind of concept university-wide. And the Live Well UNG is kind of like the forefront or the platform from which all of these messages for student well-being are going to come from. And so it's this comprehensive, holistic, preventative, service-based approach to students' well-being. And so Live Well UNG means that if you see something with that new logo on it, or those words on it, it means it's going to be something related back to your well-being.
Awesome. And you guys actually have a not a slogan, but like a thing that y'all go by, which are the 8 dimensions of wellness. Can you touch on what that is and what students should know when they're looking at something that says wellness on it? What does the 8 dimensions mean? How does that fit into that?
Yeah, so we're kind of talking about defining well-being earlier. And so those 8 dimensions really define the scope, basically the scope of practice for well-being, right? The things that we're going to be talking about. So those things are the intellectual, financial, social, emotional, mental, physical, career, even spiritual well-being of students. And so those areas, if one thing is kind of deficient or off in a student's life, it can really throw the whole balance of their well-being off. And so those dimensions are going to be even further kind of dissected and talked about through this new Live Well UNG kind of promotion that hopefully we're going to hit on things that students can really use in their day-to-day life here on campus.
That's a great way to put it. And I do 100% agree. When one thing is off, it feels like your whole world is off as a student. But that's why it's important to get in touch with like all the resources that UNG has to offer so that you can balance it out. And it feels like a balancing thing because just when you think you have it all figured out, that's when one thing throws it all out of balance and you gotta, it's just a balancing act. It's just like life. I feel like student life eventually changes once you leave, but not really. It's just that's how life kind of is.
I think
Um,
that's a great point because part of this message is that we're setting you up with skills, hopefully, that you're going to be able to use for the rest of your life because well-being will be part of the rest of your life, in some way, shape, or form. And it does change. You're absolutely right.
yeah, I agree. Yeah. Um, Next question. So a lot of our interviews so far have been about departments that students can visit, have like a not a sit down, but basically like an appointment with somebody. Sometimes they're expected to go like with advising, sometimes they're not. So what services do you offer for students? How do students get in touch with you? How do you actually interact with students in your department, basically?
So we have really a multifaceted approach to interacting with students. There's so many different ways. We know students are on social media, so we are there as well. Our Dahlonega campus and our Gainesville campus have separate Instagram accounts. And so our Dahlonega one is at ung.crw. And then our Gainesville account is at UNG Gainesville CRW, all one word. And so any events, any kind of promotional, informational, Educational pieces that we have will be found on our Instagram. So it's a great place for students to start to follow, to see what's going on in our department. And then we have events and tabling and things where we're out on campus face to face with students. And they can come by, stop at the table. A lot of those events are student led, so they can connect with their peers on topics that are important to them. And then we really kind of have an open door policy at Campus Rec and Wellness. We really just want you to stop by, say hi. If you have questions, I travel from campus to campus, but we have a full-time coordinator here on the Dahlonega campus and a full-time coordinator in Gainesville as well. And then we have some people that are strategically in place on some of those regional campuses. So we really try to make it very easy for students to find us, to get in touch with us. And our offices are great about if we're not here, they are really kept abreast of all the things that are going on too. So
That's great to hear. And you touched on how students often lead these events, and will give you guys ideas about what even to do for an event if you're looking to do one. If I'm a student and let's say I want to get involved, I want to give you guys my input, how do I actually go about that process?
yeah, so there's actually a couple different ways. You can just leave a tip at the table, right? Say, hey, I'd really like to see so-and-so happen. Another way is we have a group called the Peer Health Educators, and they are the group that actually does the tabling events and the peer-led activities. And so we do have volunteer positions available for that group. People who join that as a volunteer can have the input of what the events can look like, be involved in setup, delivery, topic areas, different things like that. So if you're real creative or you're going into a healthcare field, or even if you're not, it's a great place to really learn how to almost do project planning and event management along with that health message. And then we have our brand new, what will be starting this fall, the Student Health Advisory Council. And so that will be an application-based process for students on any campus that are at least enrolled in 6 hours or more and maintain at least a 3.0 GPA to apply to be a part of that position. And that position is going to be more intentional about hearing what the priorities are for student health at UNG and be that conduit between students and administration to really say, we feel like this is important. This is a topic that's come up a lot. We feel like this would be a great way to reach students. We feel like, all of these ideas, because students have the best ideas on how to reach students. And so we really want that student voice behind what they feel is important to them, because that's really ultimately why we're here, is for our students. So
I agree 100%. I noticed instantly when I transferred to UNG from a traditional 4-year college where you just lived on campus, that it was such a different experience. Like, you actually got to see on social media everything that was happening on campus, which I feel like, especially as a commuter, you kind of need, because when you're living on campus, everything's sort of in a bubble. But when you're a commuter, you aren't solely in this world. You have other things going on typically in your life outside of school. And when you're able to see, oh, there's an event today on campus, I can go with my friends. It's with Live Well UNG, that's really cool, and they're promoting this stuff. It keeps you in a loop, and it reminds you that there are so many resources on campus here that care about you. It's not just a word that's thrown around in meetings and one event, because I see events all year round for wellness, and especially during midterms and final exam season when everything is crazy. Whenever I see the posters up, I'm like, okay, I can go to this and everything will be okay.
Yeah, and we try to make it interactive and fun for students too, because at the end of the day, sometimes you just need to step away from everything and have a little fun and decompress and just kind of chat with other students that are going through the same things you are. So hopefully our events are very student driven. We want them to be interactive and useful and engaging and fun for students.
100%. I agree. And this is going to be pretty much, I guess, one of my last few questions, but this is more like a clarifying thing. So we've talked on what your department actually does, but there are some other departments that touch on what you mentioned, but differently. So we have, counseling, we have academic advising, we have just student health in general. How does your department, I guess, differ from those? You've touched on it a little bit, but I want to make sure the students understand, because after seeing these videos, it may get a little bit confusing. Well, what is this one? What is this one? What is that one? So just how does yours basically differ from everybody else?
Yeah, so you're gonna hear that Live Well UNG and those other departments as well, because it really takes all of us working together to really encompass that whole well-being of the student. And so our department is more promotional, educational, resource driven as far as getting resources in the hands of students, whereas a lot of these other departments are very service driven. They also do educational components, they also do outreach, but their main focus is really to provide a direct service to students. Student counseling provides counseling appointments, referrals for specific mental health needs. Our student health services, they provide medical services. Our department does not provide any of that. We are not licensed counselors or medical providers. So, but we can help get you there if you need some direction and guidance on how to get there.
Awesome. Those are all my questions. Is there anything else that you want students to know before we hop off? Something we didn't touch on, something you want to elaborate on?
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is we, part of the Live Well initiative, we will have kind of a one-stop shop for students that will be web-based where they can go, and all of those 8 dimensions that we've talked about today are going to be on that website. And so then they can kind of dig down in those different dimensions and find resources that'll be helpful for them. Like on the financial well-being side, they may be able to look at what is a budget? What does a budget look like? What is the health of my finances right now? What are some other resources that I could reach out to improve that? How can financial aid work with me to make college less expensive? So all of those resources that are going to be hopefully practical and useful for our students, easy to find, easy to navigate, and all right there in kind of a one location for them to access. And that will be under the Dean of Students website, under wellness.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for clarifying that. I want to thank you again for talking to me today. I'm hoping that students will kind of understand what your department is now, and that you guys are all friendly. You will reach that there's opportunities to reach out and say, hey, I want this event going on. So yeah. And there is a lawnmower in my background. If you hear that, I do apologize. There is nothing I can do about it. Hopefully you can still hear me. But yeah, again, I just want to thank you for your time, sharing that with students, sharing this information about you. Yeah, it was great talking to you. I genuinely enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Valentina, for asking all these questions. I hope students take advantage of the opportunities we have to offer.